we get chatting. So absolutely delighted to have you all here. I'll just give you another 10 seconds or so for everyone to come out of the waiting room into the event, and then we will get started. So while we're doing that, let me pull up the presentation, switch that on. Right, there we go. So hello all, hi. So that is absolutely brilliant, wonderful. And for those of you, what I normally do is say, if you haven't yet found the chat, but you can see there where people are saying hello, that's the public chat, and I'll explain a bit more about the distinction between the two for people who I haven't worked with before. So hello and welcome to the Remote Energy Experiments Wow Results webinar. You'll see why I've called it that when we get started. My name is Marilyn Devonish. I'll do a bit of an intro later, but that's enough for now. So we're going to dive in first of all in terms of what we did for the previous intro webinar. I'm just going to really cherry pick for a couple of minutes just to bring you up to speed for those who may be here for the first time and you didn't see the previous recording. So we looked at what is the remote experiment, why am I doing it, the scalar energy generators, as an overview of the 7-day experiment that we're going to talk about the results of today, what people could expect, fingers crossed, and that little star. We are not making any healing claims, we're not making any medical claims. This is about having people support their body so it can do what it's naturally designed to do. Looked at some of the supporting modalities that I was including with this. We did a Huna overview because there was a Huna session involved as well, and then the next steps, the remote program rollout, and then we did a Q&A. So that's the kind of overview of where this journey started. Gosh, what, 6-7 weeks ago. So today's webinar, we're talking really about the results. So I'll do a quick recap of the experiment, because when I say the scalar energy or the harmonics or the molecular, if you weren't involved last, you're like, what? So I'll tell you just very briefly what those terms mean. And then we'll do a results take you through the 6 people who took part and give you an overview of the results that they achieved. So we'll talk about the before and the after. I'm then going to talk about phase 2 and give you, we're using Radionics for phase 2. So I'm going to give you an overview of the Radionics, how that works. We're going to look at something called the manifestation protocol. So we'll do an intro to that. You'll have then a bit of thinking time. We're going to do the Q&A. So I've had some questions that have come in already, so I'm going to answer those. And then if there's anything else that's been in the chat, then I'll answer that as well. What I'm planning to do also, and everybody can take part in the writing of it, but for those who are doing phase 2, there is a thing called the manifestation protocol, and it requires the manifestation statement. So what we're doing with regards to this, we're all, if you want to, we're going to start writing your manifestation statement. I'm going to give you some tips about how to structure it and the reasons why I suggest you do that, because the radionics phase is all about intentionality. And I cannot set the frequencies without the right intention. I will explain what I mean by that as well. So we're going to start writing your manifestation statement. And then once you've written it, we're going to do a Huna energy clearing to give your manifestation statement a boost. So then after the webinar, you can go and refine it further when there's a lovely Huna symbol, for example. The literal translation is light comes pouring forth from the head. So let's say I'm doing a breakthrough session with someone. I know it's there. They're like, oh, I don't know. I can't think of anything. So even when we're online on the phone, I'd just be like, and then about 30 seconds later, they go, oh, actually, boom, it all comes flooding out. So I thought it would be nice to do a Huna assist for that. And then I'll talk about some of the next steps. So that's what we have lined up for today. Now, how to submit your questions. I think most of you have found it, but just to make that distinction, if you look at the 2 red arrows on the top, that you've got the public chat where everyone is saying hello. Oh, hold on, not getting any sound. Oh, brilliant. I'd say refresh. Thank gosh, everyone else is. I'm just checking my microphone as well. So where everyone's saying hello, click the webinar, good evening, your perfect time, you're in perfect time. And where my message is going to come up as well, that's public. So whatever name, because I've set this up so people could sign in anonymously if they wanted to. So whatever name you've used to sign in, we will see that name in the public chat where you can see all the chat at the moment. If you use the Q&A, that's private. So that's next to the chat. So it's just you click one toggle or one or the other. Nobody else can then see what you put in the private Q&A. That comes directly to me. So I won't say your name. I probably won't say your name when I read stuff out here either. But I won't say your name. I'll just kind of summarize if it's something that I think will be useful to the rest of the group, or I'll reply behind the scenes. So cool. And hello and welcome all. Lovely to see you here. And Debbie, I hope you got your sound back. So the remote experiment recap, what I did and how we did it, because this was a co-creation and a collaboration. First thing, why? I looked into deeper cellular healing the past couple of years because I had some stuff going on with me and my health, and I'm like, I'm not having this. So I wanted to look beyond just the conventional things that you would do, and I came across these are for actually I've got one here. Oh, actually, I've got the probe as well. One sec. So these I bought for personal use, and this is the probe that you can use. So let's say somebody I know who's here was asking about the gums, etc. So I could switch that on. Actually, 1 second. Here's one I made earlier. Give it a moment. If I just launch that, so now you can see, if I put it there, you can see probe is on, and what you could typically do is just sit there and place the probe wherever you want it, and this runs on a cycle of 4 minutes. So I purchased this. Let me turn that off. So I purchased this for personal use. I loved it. So that then got me back into something I've been into for a long time. And of course, with the Huna, H-U-N-A, that's all about energy, frequency, etc. So I've been into Huna since the year 2000, 24 years at this point, if you're watching this in real time. So I've always loved that kind of stuff, but it really got me re-interested in it and looking at the Rife frequencies, looking at Tesla. That then led me to the whole thing with Einstein. We'll touch on that as well. And so I started going, oh, and then of course, once you open the door to something, well, if you're me, once you open the door to something, a load more stuff gets revealed. So the quantum scalaways, they made a massive difference health-wise. And I started blending my Huna with the scalar energy. And then, of course, that part of my brain kicks in. It's like, hello, what would happen if? And I started thinking about, oh, I wonder what I can do with other people. So I did a little dabble with these, but no, they're really good for personal use, but they weren't allowing me to do what I wanted to do. So that was the reason that's where it started. Then I would say, hold on, there, that's right. I'm sorry, just checking. So then I would say also, I started thinking, okay, well, why might people want to do this? It's either going to be one of two basic reasons. It's going to be physical health, or it's going to be emotional health. And as you can see here, the majority of people, 75%, were working on things with regards to physical health, which is where it started for me. 12.5% of people focused on both. And I also asked about, okay, what's the impact on your life with this thing that you want to work on? Because the reason I got into the lasers, I'm like, this is starting to impinge in my life. Yeah, I can sit about and do Huna all day, but actually I had other things to do. And I really wanted, I thought, I just had this thing, I want to work at a deeper cellular level. That was the thing that was in my head. So I was saying, okay, with the people who applied to take part, what is it you want to work on? And some people just gave me 1 or 2 words. But I said, what impact is that having on your life? What's the negative impact? And 76.3 people, nearly 80% of the respondents said it was having a negative impact on their life. So I was like, okay, what if I could design something which, after you send me the email, there's no effort on your part whatsoever. All the work is done at this end, at my end, and you just get on with your day and you just enjoy the results. So my brain was like, oh, I want to play with this further. So that was part of the impetus as well, in terms of if 80% people's lives are being disrupted, 80% of their life is potentially being disrupted. Whoa, that's a massive number. So I would say, if you haven't ever done any of this, just start thinking about, okay, with some of the things that are going on for you, be they physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, what impact is it having on your life? And if something is impacting nearly 80%, that's a big deal. So I was like, I want to do something about this. So in terms of the remote experiment, it was this, we did a series of remote energy experiments. We used scalar energies, we used the Rife frequencies. For some, we used the molecular, which was the nail clippings. We did the Huna, and we did the remote generator. So that, and I'll explain a little bit more about what they are. one of the things as I started looking at this, because Einstein, of course, I talk about, well, not of course, some of you don't know, but when I teach my photo reading accelerated learning, Einstein is central to that. He features throughout the entire photo reading book. So I like to think of myself and Einstein being a bit like that in terms of the amount of time we energetically spend together. But Einstein talked about this phenomenon. He called it spooky action at a distance. And the way it would work, let's see. Okay, let's just imagine these are one, this is one entity. So this is part of the brain or inside the brain. One of the things that Einstein realized is when you separate these two, you could spin and rotate this one, and this one would spin and rotate. Same direction, dimension, velocity, etc. Because he couldn't, and then you could separate them even further so they were not in physical proximity to each other, and they would still impact each other. So Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, because he could see what was happening but could not scientifically explain what the heck was happening. So he called it spooky action at a distance. Nikola Tesla also, this might have been one of the things that got him bumped off, but that's just, that's another story for another day. But he called scalar energy, said it's radiant energy, that he felt it was primal force energy in the universe, and it is standing energy or universal waves, which can be transmitted without loss. So what that means is you can transmit scalar waves across the earth through bricks, mortar, all of that stuff. It just doesn't like plastic particularly, but you can, and that's if you're in the physical field. I'm not talking about the long distance, but you can transmit that scalar energy, and it will, let's say it leaves its source at 100%, it will arrive at its destination at 100% unscathed. And one of the things that Tesla was working on, if you've ever looked at his work, is the concept of free energy, because this scalar energy is all around us. Now, unfortunately, he never got to make that a reality. So, we got my energy bills probably doubling every 5 minutes and all of that sort of stuff. But this is what Nikola Tesla was into as well, in terms of the scalar energy. So in terms of the actual remote experiment, each participant had a dedicated week, 7 days. So day 1, they had 12 hours in the scalar energy field. Day 2, we took a break. Now, I didn't tell people why we were taking a break. I suspected that people would be really tired and that their body would feel like, whoa. So I left a break. Now, when we get to the feedback, you will see that a good, I think 4 or 5 people, like one person said they felt like they'd been hit by a bus. Another said they were glad they had the time off work because they slept till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But I didn't tell people that, because what I didn't want to do is put any ideas in people's head, and that they would then have the expectation of tiredness and either create it or be upset if they weren't tired. So I just kept quiet and just said, we're going to have a break to give your body a chance to adjust and get used to it. Day 12, we had another 12 hours in the pure scalar energy field. Day 4, we did the Huna energy clearing. Day 5, we did the molecular scalar, or the imprinting, with the name imprinting, depending on what you chose. If it was the molecular with the sample, we used a nail clipping where you get the RNA from that. Day 6, we had another 12 hours in the scalar energy field. And day 7, I was doing a bit of a scan, some dowsing and a review, and seeing what I wanted to do. Now, I was adjusting the frequencies as we went, because some of the participants were emailing me on a daily basis saying, well, this is how I'm feeling today. This is what I've noticed. This is what have happened, boom, 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 boom. And then from there, I was kind of doing a bit of tinkering, adjusting with the frequencies. And I'll show you what I mean when I say the frequency. So that was the experiment. In terms of the energy we were using, there's something called pure scalar. So these 2 boxes you see here are the scalar energy boxes. They transmit pure scalar. There is another attachment if you want to go into the Rife frequencies, and the Rife frequencies are very specific. So there is a frequency for your knee, your eye, your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, whatever. There's energies for abundance, all that sort of stuff. They're different energy frequencies, and there's another bit of kit that you can attach where you can run those specific frequencies. So based on what people said they wanted to work on, that determined the Rife frequencies I chose. There was also the molecular scalar where you would use your nail clippings, or you can use hair, saliva, blood. We stuck with nails. The hair is, you get a good result from hair as well. However, it's not, you don't just knock the end off, you have to pull it out from the root because you want the bulb. And most people don't want to be having tweezers and plucking their hair out. So we went with the nail clippings, which was easier for people. We did the Huna, and then something called the harmonics, where I was playing sound frequencies based upon what it is people wanted to work on. So someone, for example, said muscle stiffness. So I then found frequencies that relate to the muscles, that relate to the joints. I play that through the harmonic. There's an attachment. And what that does, I hope this is making sense. What that does is that harmonic frequency then gets transmitted into the scalar energy, and you're in the middle of the scalar energy, so that frequency gets added. So that's in a nutshell what we did. As I said, there's a longer video, hour and a half, where I slow it down. It's just I don't want to recreate the whole of a webinar 1 when I've already recorded it, but just to kind of bring you up to speed. So how the pure scalar energy sessions work, imagine that smiley face is you. We got the 2 boxes, they back each other, there's a reason for that. And the scalar energy flows between those 2 boxes, and then I placed the participant, when it was their turn, in the middle of that in terms of the name imprinting. So we got the 2 boxes either end of the room that I was using. Scalar energy is running, it's invisible, you can't see it, and you're in the center of that, so in the middle of those boxes. When I mentioned the harmonics, so this, what you see on that little piece of paper, that's somebody's name is written on that piece of paper. That's my mobile phone, because I'm picking up the frequencies through the phone, just like you go to YouTube and play a video. Well, rather than playing a video, I then went to the site where the frequencies are and I play those frequencies. So that black handheld actually looks, I'm a fan of Jean-Luc Picard and Captain Janeway, Star Trek. And that actually looks like the Enterprise a little bit. But the thing that looks a bit like the Enterprise, that's actually a sort of speaker, and you play the harmonic energy through that, and then that goes into the scalar wave. You might also see just on the right-hand side, as I'm looking at the camera, I use frankincense aromatherapy oil because I was dowsing to see which oil, if I want to add one, would be good. And the reason I chose frankincense, it's a good all-rounder. So there's a little well, so I folded the piece of paper up, that goes into the bottom of the well, and then I put the frankincense on top of that, and so you get the benefit, a bit like, think of it like homeopathy. You get the benefit of the frankincense oil as well. So that's what we were doing. Now, this is what I call when we talk about the Rife frequency, so getting specific with the frequencies, this is called the Gen X, and it uses the DNA or RNA sample, depending what you've got. And this now brings us back to Einstein with spooky at a distance. So you select the required frequencies, you add the DNA, nail clippings, to this thing here. This is called the remote. It's like a, and so the nail clippings go in there. So they, have I got, hold on. All right, so the nail clippings are actually in here. So they go into the center. These are just stickers. So you get the sticker, pull it off the thing, put the nail clipping in, seal it up, and then this goes in there, and then that gets plugged into the generator, and the frequencies run through the generator, and they pick up on whatever's in there. So that's how that worked. And then I'm choosing the individual frequencies. We're using what we call Rife frequencies, Royal Raymond Rife. You can look that up. So this is the person, for example, who is doing the osteoporosis hip pain. So they were in the frequency for 234 hours. I just decided to leave them in there because not everybody did the nail imprinting, the nails. So because there was nobody waiting for the generator after them, I just left them in there. And what was interesting, the following week, they said, it's still working. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's why. But it'll be interesting to hear how they're getting on now. But what you'll see a load of numbers on the left-hand side. Then you'll see, I know it's pretty small, but you'll see the frequencies that we were running. So on this one, I also did something for knee pain as well. Not because they said they had knee pain, but what I know from physiology in the body and the alignment, if your hips are off because you're in pain, your knees and your ankles, etc., are probably off as well, and your spine and all the rest of it, because we're one unit. So if you pull or contract, expand, etc., to compensate, because when you're in pain, you've got a natural ouch factor, so there tends to be a bit of contraction there. Also, oftentimes the muscles can be tight, brittle, etc. So that can have a knock-on effect. So I also did a kind of things where it's almost like the knock-on effect through the body, to help with regards to that. So that's when I talk about the frequencies. There's a program that I'm using that I'm pointing there because the generator's over there. So basically that's what we were doing. So for those of you I haven't met before, you're like, what do you do? What do you do? Do I sit around playing with frequencies? Yeah, I do a lot in terms of Huna, but not in this particular format. And when you see the modalities I do, that will probably give you a little bit of a clue as to the reason for the wanton experimentation, because I had a traditional background. We'll just do a quick 5-minute overview. I did a business studies degree, postgraduate marketing with postgraduate diploma with the Chartered Institute of Marketing. I was studying to be a chartered accountant, but very quiet, very shy. So I just signed up for a personal development course to help me improve my communication skills so I could look people in the eye when I talk to them. That was it. I accidentally, genuinely accidentally, signed up for a full-on personal development course. I did try to get a refund. And they said, I was really angry at the time, but they said, come to the training. If you don't get massive value, that's how I was like, ugh. If you don't get massive value at the end of the training, we'll give you a full refund. So I'm like, you're going to waste a whole week of my time? Just give me my darn money, because it was several £1,000s. So I'm not going to let them hold on to it. So I went just to get my money back. The rest, as they say, is history. So I gave up the accountancy studies and became a practitioner, master practitioner and trainer of NLP and hypnosis and timeline therapy. Also fell in love with this thing called Huna. Blew my mind in terms of how the heck it was even working, working with people who were not even there, miles away, thousands of miles away. Mind blowing for me as someone who had been quite analytical and academic. So went over to Hawaii a few times to do the Huna practitioner trainings. And over the years, I've added loads of different modalities: EFT, DNA, theta healing, past life regression, FLP, future life progression, tarot reading, access consciousness, opening the heart, emo trance, energetic NLP, Reiki, soul plan reading. So I'm a soul plan practitioner and soul plan instructor, so teach other people to be soul plan readers. Archetypal profiling. I'm also a corporate trainer, personal kind of coach for people who want to improve their public speaking skills, a mental health first aider, and a media commentator. And it all came off the back of contemplating suicide in September 2000, and this course was in October 2000. So it was fast and it was dramatic. So that piqued my curiosity for, so I don't have to be digging around with all of my psyche and my stuff for years on end, because that was my idea and actually my experience of trying to work on some of the things I wanted to work through before I thought it would just be easier to end it all. So I was like, wow, that was fast. That was a transformation, hence trance, because I'm also a hypnotherapist. So that's really how the journey started. I then started writing about emotional health and well-being for newspapers and magazines. So I've been doing that since 2003. In the more recent times as well, I write for business publications, so things like Forbes, The Guardian, Huffington Post, People Management, range of topics, things like diversity, of course, not of course, you won't know that, some of you, flexible working, mental health, tarot in business, workplace bullying, leadership development, you name it, it's probably been in there over the years. And I've also been a specialist remote working implementation consultant since 2003, which is going into organizations to write, design and implement remote working policy and strategy. A lot of that was in central and local government, working as a management consultant. So co-authored 2 books on that topic in March 2020, just as we went into lockdown, because there are a few people like, hey, there's an opportunity here. So wrote chapters for those books. They're physical books. I can't sort of send you a PDF. And I also design and deliver corporate workshops. As I said, been doing that for coming up to 21 years now. And you name the topic, I've probably done it. As you can see, they're everything from the teams and emotional intelligence, stakeholder management, managing projects, anything to do with leadership development, creative thinking, critical thinking, decision making, communication skills. It's all in there. And one of the things I started doing, particularly here, at first I was very straight-laced. I'm just going to keep it all about business. But it was my boss actually who outed me and said, we hired you because you told us you could bring a unique blend. And I was sitting, it was my first outing with, he's now passed away, a lovely guy called Andy Jess. We're at HMRC Treasury Department in Horse Guards in London. And Andy introduced himself. He's one of the directors of the company. So he says, hi, my name is Andy Jesse. So this is Marilyn Devonish, one of our consultants. She's the weird one. That's how he introduced me. And he did it on purpose to force me into bringing my weirdness into the office. So of course, I'm all suited and booted, trying to be sensible and businesslike. And the client then says, the weird one, well, that's intriguing. What do you mean? So I then had to fess up with the hypnosis, timeline therapy, NLP. You know what the client said? Brilliant. That sounds like just what we need. And that was the reason we got the contract. And so that gave me permission to start really blending all of these wonderful modalities. So I've always had a thing about, is there a way I not speed for the sake of speed. I want depth, I want results, and I want them to last. And I don't want to waste people's time. If we can do this quick, we can do this fast, we can do this deep, we can make it last, I'm all in. So over the years, for some of you are here, I recognize the names. You've worked with me over the years, and you'll know it's like a little ideas factory in here. And I'm always coming up with something to see if I can improve upon what's there, or taking an old idea and doing something with it. I've always been about transformation. So the very first book that I was invited to co-author, this was back in the day, I don't know, 2007, something like that. With Anthony Robbins, Dr. Paul Sheely, the creator of photo reading. Again, that whole creative thing, how do you use your brain? The late Dr. Wayne Dyer, Chun Yi Lin, who does Spring Forest Qigong, and business guru Brian Tracy. So in a nutshell, that's me. Now, one of the things as we get into it, in a second, I'm going to go and close that door because I can hear the rain really loud. I don't want it on the recording. So there is something that I learned when I went out into Hawaii. It said, think not that all wisdom is in your school. What that means is you might think that the thing that you do is the best thing since sliced bread. It may well be. That's probably not the only way to do it. Now, so what I'm going to share with you, what I've shared with you previously about what I did with the equipment, that's probably not in the, I know it's not in the handbook because I read the handbook. So that's not traditionally the way that people have been using it. And what I'm doing as we go forward, that's not necessarily the way people will be doing it. And that's not the way you have to do it. I'm experimenting and I'm tweaking and changing, going, right, this works. I'm not sure about that. So it's not the be all and end all. I'm just sharing with you what I did. So desired results, we started with what are your expectations? So what I'm going to ask you to think about, particularly those who haven't done this yet, what would it be for you? Would it be about a detox? Would it be energy clearing? Would it be supporting your immune system? Would it be getting things physically and emotionally or mentally back on track? Is it about stimulating your health and regeneration? Or is it empowering you to take control of your own health? So just have a little think about that. You can put it in the chat. You can put it into the Q&A. So I'll give you a minute or two just to think about what's your focus. And if you thought about it in terms of something that's maybe having a negative or detrimental impact on your life, what would that be for you? So as we're talking, because this is also about intentionality, there may be some things that land that even get that ball rolling for you. So while you are thinking about that, I'm actually going to go and close that door so I cannot hear all of that rain. But have a think about it. You can share in the chat. You can share in the Q&A. So you've got about 2 minutes to have a think about what would your expectations be and what would you want? So brilliant. I can see someone has said, someone has said, all of them, please. Someone else said, get things physically and emotionally back into balance. Wonderful. And actually, yeah, when there'll be times where you're like, trust me, when I was going through the health stuff, I was like, all of the above, thanks very much. this mug is perfect. I believe the person who, yes, I can see they're on the list. So the person who gave me this mug is here on this call. But what it says on the back, it says a brilliant idea. Whoops, Kate. A brilliant idea came to her. I'll show it you when I've drunk some of the tea so I don't spill anything. But this is perfect for me, which is probably why they chose it, where it's like an ideas factory. I don't implement all the ideas because, my God, there wouldn't be enough time in the day. But when I get a good idea that keeps nagging at me, I will go for it. Right, oh, hold on, my Q&A light is on as well. Be careful with the detox, channels, absolutely. So with regards to this, now this actually I'll come back to that one when we talk about the questions in terms of that. But that is a brilliant point. Fabulous. Right, my right toe hurts when I walk at work. Fine in the morning, but halfway through the day it starts to hurt, and the effects the way that I walk, and general detox throughout the entire body with particular emphasis on the mouth. Cool, fabulous. And it's just nice to have a little bit of think about, okay, where would your focus be and what would it be for you? So I got everyone to benchmark their starting point. The reason I did that straight out the gate, because I thought if this works in the way that I'm expecting it to work, it's going to be fast. And I don't know if you've ever been like, somebody might do a breakthrough session. Back in the day, this is why I started taking notes when I did breakthrough sessions. Did a breakthrough session with someone who had real issues with her mother. Like, they did not get on. It would bring up anger and all sorts of emotions. She could barely say the word mother without crying and all the rest of it. So we do the 1-day breakthrough session. Had a little bit of time in hand. So I says, well, let's keep that hour back because it's like, 7-8 hours. So we do the full day. They come back a couple of weeks later, and I just want to test, make sure everything's okay. Is there any other tweaks and changes or anything else we want to put into the mix? And so they sat down. They said, I don't think that. So they said, I don't think the breakthrough sessions worked. I don't feel any different. So, okay, so well, let's have a chat first of all. And I had my notes, and in my notes, I just happened to be, because she was crying so much, I was just writing. So I just wrote in the notes, crying, ... Then about a few minutes later, still crying, ... crying. And I actually drew a little picture of a sad face with a tear, all this, because there was, just one waiting for them to get it out of the system. So I then started asking her the same things that I'd asked a couple of weeks before that invoked that reaction. And she just sort of looking at me like stony face. No reaction, no emotional reaction, blah, blah, blah. So this goes on for about 10 minutes. And I said, I want to show you something. I said, come over here. And I had put her name and I dated the page. And of course, you could see that many things had come after that. So I couldn't have inserted it. I said, what does that say? She said, crying. I pointed again. I said, this very same pen I was using. I said, what does that say? Crying. What does that say? Still crying. I said, who do you think I'm talking about? She went, me. I went, yeah, every time I said this to you, you burst into tears. Every time I said this to you, the anger came up. I said, I've just run through these 20 times, no reaction. And I realized because it had been so fast and so subtle, there wasn't like a bolt of lightning that came down and she went, ta-da. It just felt normal. So she thought it hadn't worked. So I'm like, oh my God. So that's the reason I wanted people to be really specific, benchmark where you are, identify your ideal outcome and results. So you're going to neurologically recognize it when it happens. Of course, give yourself permission to receive and intend it to happen in a way that's right and healthy and ecological for the body. So the body is going at the rate and the pace that is right for it, because the last thing you want to be done is, they call it a cytokine storm. That's the last thing you want to do to yourself. So in terms of what we're saying about the detox, etc. So we want that ecology check in there as well. So everyone got a little form to fill in, rate themselves on 1 to 10, because that just gives you a bit more of a concrete number. And that was our starting point. And then I was asking people, what do you most want to achieve? And what was their reason for attending the webinar on that particular day? And what would make it valuable? And what would make it worthwhile? Because I wanted it to be clear in people's minds. So if things happen very quickly, because sometimes things change, you go, no, I can't believe that. So you just kind of write it off. But if you've actually written it down in your own hand or typed it, you can't blow it off. So that was the reason for really going at it like that. This slide I put up the first time round as well. But what I've done this time round is I've marked in red the things that I've seen happening, because I ran this webinar, the intro webinar, what would that have been, about 7 weeks ago, something like that. So then I sat down and think, right, what are the things that people have already noticed with having their week? So increased cell energy in terms of feeling the energy in the body, energy level boosted, enhanced body circulation, reduce pain and inflammation, stimulating their own immune function, accelerating, speeding up, supporting their natural healing, improving sleep quality. That was a very, very common one. Clearing the mind and enhancing focus and concentration. So someone was saying, well, we'll see it when we come to the feedback, but they're saying, you know, I'm channeling again. My mind is clear. Other people saying their intuition, their creativity, their focus. So I put in red the things that we've already started to notice just after people going through that first week. So the link you can see, full disclosure, this is my affiliate link. So if you ever thought, oh, I might fancy looking at that equipment, use my link, because then it will help to fund some of these experiments and I can keep the prices down. So I'll say it just so it's on the recording. It's spooky2-mal, depending on how you say it, .com/ref/811. So it's spooky, spooky-2-mall.com/ref/811. So the boxes that you can see and the Gen X that I showed you, those are from Spooky 2. The reason that, because at first I'm like, why on earth would you call yourself Spooky? And then I realized they were talking about the Einstein connection. So that's where the kit that I've used so far has come from. So let's get down to results after I've had a sip of my tea. Lovely jabbly. So case studies. Because people had a lot to say, the bullets are quite small. So, but there's a whole blog. And I'll put the link to the blog in the comments as well, so you can read up there. So case study 1, low energy motivation. So before, when they started, they said, I've got low energy, finding it challenging to focus at work, procrastination, lack of creativity. After their week, one of the first things they said they noticed the body is thirsty a lot, so they were kind of drinking more water. They said, which I thought was lovely, they said they had the desire to exercise and move their body, which they cannot remember the last time they had that. So that was lovely. And they also, in terms of when I say clearing the mind, started having increased synchronicities, one of which happened because we just happened to be doing a coaching session. We talked about a particular thing. They said, oh yeah, I've ordered that. As they said, I've ordered that, the door went and it was delivered by Amazon. So it's that sort of thing. So, you know, you're back in the flow of things. That was really, really fantastic. Case study number 2, they had high blood pressure and stress. So they said before we did the remote experiment, extreme tiredness, poor sleep, about 4 to 5 hours a night. They were taking medications for the high blood pressure that was causing them to have a full bladder. So they're waking up every 2 hours to use the bathroom. So as you can imagine, that's quite disruptive. And they said slow to no progress in terms of the work on their own business. After the experiment, they said the first day of the experiment, they slept till 3 p.m. So like, thank goodness I had some time off work. They said the second day they went into London for a few hours and they didn't need to use the bathroom, which if you're going every 2 hours, that's an achievement. They said their energy levels have started to improve. So, you know, I'm talking about that cellular thing where the body starts to get its groove back almost. They said the most noticeable improvement was not waking up every 2 hours to go to the bathroom. So they had better bladder control, because when you're not waking up every 2 hours, you then have the potential for better, deeper sleep. And of course, your sleep is where you regenerate. Feel like the Borg now, but you know what I mean. They said they're working on their business, taking inspired action, felt the effects of the energy, knew something was happening in the background, and they've had several great unexpected things happen out of the blue, which is absolutely wonderful, because sleep is so important. So when that starts to come back into gear, that is amazing. Case study number 3, kidney function and tired. So they said, in terms of the tiredness, they said they're extremely tired, feeling like they've been hit by a bus. They said they've been in London that week, felt like they've been hit by a bus. So we start the experiment on the Monday. I started it the same day for everyone. So I put a calendar together. Hold on. I've got a special one. So I've got a special calendar, actually. I'm just going to put a post-it over it so I don't reveal anyone's name. So I've got a special calendar just for the occasion. So everyone, in terms of what I was doing with each person, just so I can keep it straight, make sure we do it all nice and orderly. And so on day one was the Monday. Everyone started on the Monday, ran through to the Sunday. So on the first night of the experiment, they sent me an email on the Tuesday, and they said, first night, I slept really well for the first time in weeks. Brilliant. They then said their energy feels good by the end. And they said the word they're going to use to describe it is flowy, which I like that word. So that was that. They then said day 5, they're still sleeping well. They said if they had to put it into words, which I asked them to do, they said they feel cleaner, the body feels cleaner, and they are less fuzzy in the head. So the kidney stuff is still because, these things, I remember reading, it's Deepak Chopra, Magical Body, Magical Mind, read it in the 1980s. And he talked about organs of the body and the length of time it takes them to regenerate. Now, I remember when I was reading that, very logically, I was like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Because if it's regenerating, why don't you just regenerate health? Let's say someone's got kidney problems. If it's going to regenerate itself in 3, 6, 8 months, whatever it was, why is it regenerating? But what it said it copies what's already there. So let's say something is black, but you want it to be white. If it's black, it's going to regenerate black. It just will, unless you go and clean it up. And then when you clean it up, it will regenerate in whatever you want. And so learned that in the 80s from Deepak Chopra. I was like, oh, this is interesting. So it's going to be very interesting to see what rolls from there. So that was our third case study. Study just flows happened. Okay, I'll read. I'm being nosy now. I'll see all the chat. I'll come back and read that. This case study number 4, osteoporosis and hip pain. So before, all they said to me was hip pain, osteoporosis. I'm like, cool. Okay. So do the thing that we've just been talking about. And I've had a series of emails from them. And I've just added the newer updates to the blog as well. They're not all in here. I mean, the writing would be tiny. We'd need 5 slides, which is wonderful. So they said there was a definite reduction in hip pain when walking. They said there was a reduction. They had a pronounced limp because of the hip. So they said there's been a reduction in the pronounced limping. They said they walked up the stairs without holding onto the handrail. That was by day 4, which was the Thursday, which is amazing. Then the following weekend, they sent me an email saying, Marilyn, they said, I took to the dance floor at my grandchildren's school fair and I did the candy dance. Not once, but twice. And they said, including the fast jungle version. So there's a genre of music called jungle. It's a black thing. But if you look up Candy, it was a song by Cameo, again from the 1980s. If you know the Cameo dance, or when you go and look at it, there's a lot of hop, skipping, jumping, turning, all that sort of stuff. So somebody with hip pain, a limp, osteoporosis is not the ideal dance for you. And they sent me the video. Now, if they hadn't have told me what they had been wearing, I wouldn't have been able to pick them out of the crowd because everybody was dancing in time. It was beautifully in sync. There was nobody lagging behind. So that is absolutely amazing. And they were saying that they've been, speaking to their healthcare provider, they're in line for a walker and all of that sort of stuff, looking at options for surgery, etc. Now, as I said, not making any healing claims. I'm not, keep doing what you're doing, see your physicians, take your medication, all of that sort of stuff. This is about supporting the body and giving it the help and support it needs to start rebalancing, regenerating. But that was absolutely amazing. Definitely look up the Candy Dance because it's a cool song anyway. So that was that one. Case study number 5. Oh my God, that's gone really tiny. Hold on a minute. Just so you're not looking up my nose. 1 second. I'm going to bring it up on my bigger screen here. You won't see this, but I will. Hold on. Case study number 5, grief and loss. So before, what they sent to me, they said suffering and grieving the loss of business and connection during COVID. And I put insomnia in brackets because they didn't mention insomnia. That's all they said, that very first tiny bullet point. Sorry. When you add more text, that it auto adjusts itself and makes itself smaller. And I know I went back and I made all these larger and sometimes it goes no and it just reverts itself. So it reverted and I I didn't go back and enlarge it again, but I reiterate exactly what it says because I know it's small. So after they said, okay, where to start? They said massive realization on day 2 that they had been spiritually capped and cut off. So for those of you who have a spiritual connection, just imagine that connection, that supply, boom, cut off. They've turned off your tap. They said they got the message on day 3, which is the Wednesday of the their week of the remote experiment, that they had been uncapped. They said they've started changing the direction for their business. A book they've been trying to write for years is now flowing. There's that wonderful word again. There are early small signals of people wanting to work with them. So that loss of connection, that's starting now to come back. They said, I have access to higher guidance one more, whereas previously for last few years, they've been feeling as though they were cut off. They said, I know who I am. I can channel again. They wrote in capital letters, I'm back. And they said they listened to the Huna recording on the Sunday night and they've slept through every night since. And they said they've had a good night's sleep, get this, for the first time in 3.5 years. 3.5 years. That's amazing. So just think that our little old experiment here is garnering this is just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And then we had case study number 6, muscle stiffness and eyesight. I'm going to explain why I've grayed out the eyesight in a moment. So they said Monday to Thursday, which is day 1 to day 4, they felt extra tired. Friday, day 5, they felt like they've recovered. The Saturday and Sunday, so day 6 and day 7, they attended 2 full day events and they had better energy and enthusiasm. And they said, I usually have more mediocre small talk. However, I felt more comfortable than usual talking to people I don't know, generally feeling better physically, and their muscle tone has loosened up more. Read the eyesight, I'm not noticing anything different. My eyes are still blurry in the morning. Now, the reason I've blurred this one out, actually, it wasn't, no pun intended, is because we had a little bit of a miscommunication, because they had sent me something in the physical mail, which I did. I went, brilliant, I'm going to put that there for when I'm going to get to that part of the experiment, but I didn't open it. So I'm waiting for them to say, well, because I looked at eyesight, there's like hundreds of programs. I'm like, I don't know where to start, because you can be short-sighted, long-sighted, all sort of myopia, this and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I didn't even know where to start. So I emailed them and said, can you give me a clue on eyesight? Well, what are you talking about? Give me a little bit more detail. And they were busy, da-da-da. And they were probably thinking, just read the letter. So eventually I read the letter and I was like, they've already told me. So I said, don't worry about it. So we haven't done the eyesight bit yet in the way that I'm going to do it. So I've grayed that out for now, but we'll do that. So I'll put that back into the mix and allocate the time for the eyesight piece. So watch, I said, pun's going to keep coming now. Watch this space. You know what I mean? So those are our case studies. So if you've got questions, queries about any of that, if you've got questions as we go through, feel free to put it into the chat and I will come back to that. But that's a summary of where we were at with regards to the case studies. And so what I've done on the blog page, actually, let me find that now. I will put in, that's the one I'm looking for. So what I'll do is I'm going to put into the chat, the public chat, this is the link to the blog. I've put in where people are putting their own words. I've just basically taken the names out, of course, but cut and paste what they said. So you can have a read of that one at your leisure and you'll get more detail. I've also put a few videos together to summarize, etc. So I'm just going to have a quick look in the chat just to get me up to speed, see if there's anything I want to pick up on here. What stops me receiving my farm and stroke health center? Great question. We'll talk about that with the manifestation piece. Study just flows, happens, is amazing, inspiring, spiritually to awaken to the next level. And it is really amazing to see the results with all the case study. It will be even better with the next round and more people, so bigger testing protocol. Absolutely, absolutely. So next up, now this is, so when I say the eyesight, if you look on the left hand side, you see all that text and all those numbers. Though that's what I say when I'm talking about the frequencies and the programs, that's what I'm looking at. There are 60,000 frequencies. Now, helpfully, if I were to click on any of those things, what happens is in the box under the person, the image, a description appears in that box. You can see what it is. But trust me, when you put something in like eyesight and 150 options come back, that's a lot to read through. I'm a photo reader, so we're getting through it quite quickly, but it's still a fair amount of time. And so that's why with some it was, you know, osteoporosis. I mean, yeah, that's kind of obvious. And I know the things that I would add to that in terms of muscles, all the rest of it. But with something I didn't know about, I'm like, whoa, I started reading through all of those frequencies. I'm like, okay, so I get a sense of what's here. So when I say I'm setting the frequencies, I'm looking at what people are requesting. I'm then going into the frequency database, going through these 60,000 things. It's a lot even for me. And then I'm building a bespoke program for that particular person. So the next thing I will do, having got the more information about the eyesight, for example, I'll then go back through the frequency database and start looking up the protocols that support that. So that's what I mean when I say the frequencies, running the frequencies. So if for those of you who took part, feel free to post in the chat or the private Q&A if you don't want to reveal that it's you who's saying, etc. And if you've got any updates to add, then feel free to put that in. So how can I play the specific Huna you did for me with the frequencies? You run 1 or 2 times a day if I can, and feel something is happening. Oh, that is a brilliant idea. Absolutely fabulous idea. And how many frequencies can you send to one person in one go? Great question. And I'll kind of cover that in the questions. So I'm going to come back to that one, but noted. Phase 2. So for those who went through part 1, I then, because by then now I'm like, wow, this is amazing. What else can we do? And so I was like, phase 2, here we come. So this is Radionics and the manifestation protocol. I didn't call it that. That's what it's called. So Radionics is about imprinting your request. Now we're going to imprint your request on holographic stickers. We're using what we call the manifestation protocol statement, which we're going to do after we've done the Q&A. It uses a Radionics plate. I'll show you what that looks like. Got an image of it here. So the holographic stickers, I'm ordering them in. So they're currently on order. I ordered them about 2 weeks ago. They come in from China. And with the crystals, I'm ordering them from one of my lovely clients. Some of you here know Naomi Tamayama from Mad Dog Design. So check her out on Facebook. So Naomi runs festivals. So I was thinking, right, I need some. So I decided the holographic stickers would be nice. Let's say I put in flexibility. The person with osteoporosis can stick that where they like, politely, and you'll get the frequency of that. But I thought, what about something you can carry around, something you can hold, something that is more tangible? And that's when I started thinking what I'm going to do is imprint some crystals. So went on to Naomi's Facebook page, had a look to see that she's still doing the crystals, which she is. That's one of her festival stalls. So I'm going to be imprinting into that. Check out Naomi's Facebook page, facebook.com/Mad Dog Designs, and double G, Mad Dog Designs. She's got some wonderful pieces, really great prices as well. So I ordered a batch. She's running a festival at the moment, but when she's back and she's sorted out, I've ordered a batch of crystals from her. So I'm going to be imprinting the crystals with whatever it is, those of you who are taking part, tell me that you want. And you can really go for anything. So in terms of the manifestation protocol requirements, I want you to now start thinking about what do you want to imprint on the holographic sticker. It might be healing, normal blood pressure, self-love, confidence, self-esteem, abundance, whatever it might be. Also, start thinking about if you were writing this as a statement of what you wanted to create and generate, start formulating it in your mind. And also, for those of you who take part, I'll need your physical address, your home address, or wherever, or work or office, wherever you want me to send it. So I can send you the holographic stickers when they arrive, and I can post the crystal out to you. The crystals will vary. I have told Naomi which ones I like. I've no idea what's going to turn up. It might be tiger's eye, rose quartz, clear quartz, malachite, whatever. And so what I'm probably going to do with those of you who are taking part, I shall be dousing. Some of them, it will be obvious. But others, if it doesn't just leap at me and go, oh, that's for so-and-so, I'll douse on it and see which crystal I want to send you and what I want to and to do the imprinting on. So just start thinking about those things as we go through the Q&A, such that by the time we come to sit down to write your manifestation statement, you've got a few ideas, what it is you'd like to generate. Even start thinking about what's the last thing that will happen for you to know you've actually achieved what you've put in the intention statement. So just have that rolling around in your mind. We'll answer the Q&A to give your brain, in terms of, if you think of it in photo reading terms, we have what we call an incubation break. So we're going to give your brain an incubation break. I'll go through the Q&A, and then we're going to come back and write the beginnings of your manifestation statement. And of course, you can then refine it thereafter. So this is what the radionic device looks like. It's sitting there on my desk at the moment. So you've got the input, you've got the output. So that's what it would look like. Your statement would be on the input, and then we'll put the crystal in the output, and that's the thing that would hold the frequencies. Those dials that you see, they don't do anything in and of themselves. I've got to tune those dials each time I put something different onto the plate. So I'll talk about that in a bit as well. When it arrived last week, end of last week, I thought, I'm going to do a little experiment. So what I decided, the person who I bought that actual, where is it? So here it is. So this is the oregano oil. The person I purchased it from, Rachel CK, she saw this post on Facebook. She went, Marilyn, why on earth did you do the experiment with oregano? If you've ever had oregano aromatherapy oil anywhere near any orifice, you'll know it's strong stuff. But I said, I know what it tastes like by accident initially. And so I would recognize it, you know, so that's why I chose it. So what I did is I put the input intent, so what I want the frequency of, that was the oregano oil. So I put that on the input plate, and then I created some magnetic structured water, and I put it on the output plate. So what I wanted to do was have the aromatherapy leap over into the structured water. That's the basic thing. With regards to those dials, you can see my dowsing rod in the picture. You have to douse on each of the dials to determine the frequency. Because when it arrived, I was like, well, where's the frequency book, dude? There's no frequency book. You actually have to douse. So every single time you change one of the components, you've got to douse on the first dial to set the frequency for that. You've got to douse on the second dial to set the frequency for that. You've got to douse on the third dial to set the frequency for that every single time. So it's quite laborious, but you know, it is what it is. And that's where your clarity of intent is absolutely key. So I did all of that, douse for the right frequency that would then enable the aromatherapy oil to leap over into the structured water. And then I left it for the required time, which was 20 minutes. So I set my timer. And then I pick up the water. Quite frankly, look, even though I expected it to work, and I always expect my experiments to work and be absolutely spectacular, I didn't really expect it to work. I know that sounds a bit stupid. So I pick up the water, swig it back. There was a moment of, and then suddenly it kicked in. And my lips were tingling for the next 65 minutes. I was just like, oh my God, that is just too funny. And that's why Rachel was saying, why on earth did you use one of the really strong ones? And partly, when I say I didn't expect it to work, I don't mean that, but I do mean that. Some of you will know what I mean. But that was my first radionics experiment. I was like, okay, I think that worked. So that's what we're going to be using for phase 2 of the experiment. And each of you will go on to the Radionics plate, and they recommend with the manifestation protocol that you run it for 24 hours. So each of you will get 24 hours on the manifestation device, let's call it that, which is the Radionics device. And then we have this thing called the manifestation protocol. And I just love this image. I did a little video of it. For those of you who've heard me talk about synchronicity, I first became enamored with the idea of synchronicity when I was doing A-level psychology. So, you know, just the other day. So I was doing A-level psychology. We were learning about Jung and Piaget and all this sort of stuff. Freud, the usual suspects. But for some reason, I was just so taken with Jung, not in terms of what he was doing in terms of psychology, but the sideline thing that was mentioned in passing, but really captured my attention, the idea of synchronicity. And the way I've described synchronicity over the last few decades is that it feels as though it's like the collective consciousness that runs here, and then we put our hand in and we dip in and we pull something down into the physical realm and plane. So this image here is almost like a perfect representation of how I've described it to people over the years. And there's this intersection point between that collective consciousness, the physicality of the now, and then there's that wonderful sweet spot. So what we're going for with the manifestation protocol is the sweet spot, where those things interconnect and we start playing with the fabric of reality. So that's what we're going for with regards to that. So what I'm going to do, while your brain now has a chance to think about the statement, how you're going to phrase it, if you're taking part, what do you want imprinted into your sticker, what do you want imprinted into your crystal. I'm going to go through some of the questions that were pre-submitted, and then I'll also have a look at some that are in the chat if I haven't answered them by going through these. But first, what have I got today? Lemon and ginger. So, radio, questions. So if you have questions, if you have queries, if you had feedback about anything I've said so far, put it into the chat or put it into the private Q&A, and I'll cycle back through those. So I've had 6 questions in. Number 1, is this different to the Health Activation Day? So I'll answer that. Number 2, how do the tools work for the 3-day transformation retreat? And they were sort of saying what's going to be involved in that. And again, how is it different from the other stuff? Number 3, can you overdose on the energy? Number 4, I didn't see where to take part. Number 5, how much is it to take part? I saw $59. And number 6, can you use the nail clippings to clear ancestry? So that number 6 came as a Facebook chat I was having with someone, but I thought it would be an interesting one to talk about as well. So here we go. Number 1, is it different to the Health Activation Day? In a word, yes. So with regards to the Health Activation Day, if you've ever been to the gym, or you know what a gym circuit is, you go in and there's a load of stations, and then you do that, and then you go to the next one, you go to the next one, you go to the next one. And that's the idea for the Health Activation Day, the health transformation. I'm going to bring some of the favorite modalities that I've used over the last 40 or so years. And now the thing about all of these, let's say the block therapy, for example, each position just needs 3 minutes. With some of the lasers, well, all of them, the cycle is 4 minutes. With the belly button healing, that's like 2 or 3 minutes. So you'll have, it's not like an hour, then I'm going to blow a whistle and like change. But because they work so fast, you'll have plenty of time with each of those modalities. Now, this is a group thing. So there'll be a small group of people. The place that I'm using can accommodate 5, maybe 6. And there are 2 places left if you want to come. Now, when I first conceived of this idea, I was happy with what was included, you know, with the structured water, all that sort of stuff as well, so that what you're ingesting is supporting the processes. Then I came across all of this stuff that we're talking about. So I'm like, ooh, no, I want to wait a bit, because I think I want to bring this kit along as well. So what I'll probably do is some of the and there's something else that I haven't talked about yet, but I'll mention that as well. So what I'll probably do with this one is set the scalar energy up in the room, so we'll be in the field, the scalar energy field, as we do this. So this is an in-person event, small group of people. There's a nice little cottage house that I use. I've used it once for the photo reading already, and it was lovely. So we're going to use that, which means there's a bed. So if you want to lie down in one of the rooms, you can do that. If you wanted to do the block therapy on a soft surface, there's a sofa, so you can sit and use the laser, and they'll do the belly button healing. So it's in person. Question number 2, how do the tools work with the 3-day transformation spa retreat? Whereas what was the activation day was a group thing, this is an individual one-to-one. So it's like a supercharged, next level, 100.0 breakthrough. So whereas a traditional breakthrough session is 1 day, which sounds, for some people it sounds like a lot, for some it doesn't. Trust me, it packs a punch. There'll be people who've done a 1-day breakthrough session And as they put it, the effects of the breakthrough session are still rippling throughout their entire life 10 years after investing in one day. So we're going to have 3 days. And with regards to that, the idea for that, we'll set the scalar energy up in the room. We'll set the harmonics up in the room as well. So we'll do the breakthrough session in that energy. Also, in terms of what you want to work on, we'll run the specific frequency. So typically, let's say when we start the breakthrough session, anger, sadness, fear, guilt, anxiety, that sort of thing. So those frequencies, to clear those, will be programmed into the energy field. So while we're doing what we're doing intellectually, linguistically, neurologically, etc., we also have the benefit of the scalar energy and the harmonic energy, maybe even the molecular energy, clearing at a completely different level. So this one, the breakthrough sessions, even a 1-hour coaching session or a Huna session, it's always deep. This is going to be beyond. So haven't done it yet, still to come, but based on the results of this experiment, where people are hundreds and thousands of miles away and they're getting the results that I've just taken you through here, this is going to be next level. And also depending, because there are 3 different places, one of them is a Grove in Watford, so that's the premium price one, because trust me, the rooms there are £900 a night, so we're not messing about here. So with regards to the spa retreat version, there is a massage built into that as well. So as we're clearing things physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, you have the physical massage to work that out of the system. It's set in 300 acres, I think it is, for the Grove, and so plenty of time for enjoying the grounds, and it will be plenty of time for downtime as well. The option, if people think it's a cool idea, I thought it's kind of cool, that some of the sessions we'll do just before you go to bed. So the timeline therapy we'll do just before you go to bed, and then you just go and sleep that off. The future life progression, we'll do that on the 2nd night. So we'll do that, you sleep that off. You'll also take, for the night time, the handheld laser with you, and that's already preset with 9 programs. You can run that throughout the night, and you can put it there for 4 minutes, then put it there, and then behind the back, and and there's a little protocol. I'll tell you the way that you can use it as well. And if you want to, there's something you can wear in the daytime, and the running time on that one is 30 minutes. So that's called the Wrist X. So that is a really good one for just kind of cleansing and clearing the blood. It combines Chinese acupuncture with laser technology, and the way that they describe it is your body will heal like a miracle. And again, I think this one is, I don't know, what is it? It's $379. Again, if you think this is not a sales job for Spooky 2 at all, but if you think, oh, I like the sound of that, by all means, make sure you use my affiliate link. As I said, that then feeds into funding some of these wonderful experiments. So you only need 30 minutes with this. And I'm going to come back to the whole thing. This partly answers the question about, can you overdose? The way I'm going to describe it here with this question is kind of related to that, in terms of the 4 minutes, the 30 minutes, the 3 minutes for the block therapy, etc. Think of it like a kettle. If you've got a decent kettle, the modern kettle, once it's built up a head of steam and it's changed the molecular structure of the water, etc., it switches itself off. It just stops. If I put my kettle on now, it's not going to keep boiling and boiling and boiling and boiling while I'm sitting here and like burn itself out. It switches itself off. Same with the scalar energy. This is gentle energy. Your body takes what it needs, and when it has enough, it just stops. So when those handheld lasers that I showed you that I bought for personal use, it said 4 minutes per round, you could move it around the body, etc. Now I'm like, well, what will happen if you do 20 minutes? And because the maximum setting you can set it for is 20 minutes, nothing. It's going to do what it needs to do. But let's say you get what you need at minute number 7, that's it. The body doesn't need it anymore. So just think of it, the energy just dissipating. So the analogy I would use for that, and same with the question about the detox, etc., your body will take what it needs from the scalar energy field, and then it will stop it. So I've got enough, thank you very much. Work with that, do what it wants to do. If the field is still running, when it comes back for its next round, you'll come back for the next round. So that's the way I would describe that one. Now, somebody said they didn't see where to take part. And then I don't think you're on my e-newsletter list. That'll be the reason why you didn't see it. because I was only working with a small group of people. I wanted, initially I said I'm going to work with 4 people because everyone's got 7 days. I thought, perfect, we'll just run it for a month. And so that's it, week 1 week. And then of course I thought, well, maybe, because somebody said, oh, is it still places? I went, well, kind of. I could do 1 more. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do 5, I might as well do 6. But my cutoff was really 6, you know. So the reason you probably didn't see it is because it went to my e-newsletter list. So that's where I drew the cohort from. So by the time I talked about it on social media, number 1, places were probably gone. And number 2, with regards to the algorithms, particularly my algorithms at the moment, it could be 3 or 4 weeks before something shows up. So that's what I'd say. If you are not on my e-newsletter list, get yourself signed up, because that's where you'll get first dibs, particularly if something is limited and there aren't loads of places to go around. So that will be the reason why you didn't see it. But also, one of the things I would definitely suggest, if you follow me on social media, particularly things like Facebook, occasionally, well, actually depends how much you like reading, but occasionally actually physically go to the page rather than waiting for the news feed, because there have been lots of people who say, I don't see your stuff anymore. But then when they go to my page, they see there's loads of things happening. So that'll be why you didn't see it, because I didn't sort of share it far and wide. Now, in terms of this one, how much is it to take part? I saw 59. You did, well, you put, I think it was 57, but let's just go 59. That's the number I put in because that's what you said. So that would have been about $76. It would have been 59. I believe it was £57, but you know, similar. That was for people on my e-newsletter list who took up the pre-launch, because the way that it works, when I'm launching something new, for the first couple of days, I go out to the e-newsletter list and they have a pre-launch price. Then once the pre-launch is over, they'll get another little window. So at the moment, they've got 48 hours where I'm doing a 7-day free trial for the all access pass, for example. And then if those on my e-newsletter list go, oh, I like it because you've got access to over 60 online on-demand workshops, there's a 10% e-newsletter discount that applies, and that will be for all of the recurring payments because it's a monthly or quarterly, half yearly or annual thing. So that will just go to the e-newsletter list. So this was that. It was £99 for people who booked after I'd done the pre-launch. And if you wanted to, I'll put the link in. I've set up a page where if you go, oh, I'm interested in next time. Oh, that's the one. So what I'll do is I'll put it into the chat as well. And you can see it there, www.bit.ly/remote-experiment-waitlist. So that will be the place if you did want to kind of, if I run it again and you want to be like, oh, I want to do it. Because again, I'm going to limit it to the number of people I work with. No point going, yeah, 50, and then you're waiting for a year for your slot. So I'm going to do it in batches, so no one feels hard done by. But that's what you would have seen. But it was just for the e-newsletter list. So that's that. What we got next? Hold on. We got. Can you use the nail clippings to clear ancestry? The textbook answer is no. When I answered this person, however, I said, well, I can intellectually say no, but today, for example, I did a timeline therapy session with a client, and we work on ancestry, genealogy, past lives, karmic connection, present life. And that's all. We were on Microsoft Teams, but you could very well have been on the phone because I've been working with clients online since 2005. So that was all in our mind and our intention. So when I think about it, it's not illogically, but when I think about it as a therapist, as a energy psychology, if you want to put it that way, it would kind of make sense because your ancestors are part of you. So they reside in your RNA, your DNA, blah, 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 blah. So it kind of makes sense, but that's not what it's designed for. This they call this a remote. This is the one that has the nail clipping inside. So the remote works on the RNA or DNA of whoever is in here. So great aunt Millie is not in here. So theoretically, it won't work for great aunt Millie. However, if we then come back to what we're doing with the radionics, which is all about the intention, and you are the creator of the statement and what it is you want to work on, now your question makes even more sense, because I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, but I'm talking about logically. If someone says, no, you can only put the DNA or the RNA of the person you're working with, that's the official answer. But as you know, I like a little quantum experiment. But technically speaking, the official answer is no. However, energetically speaking, and that's why I called it the quantum entanglement, coming back to Einstein and spooky action at a distance, I'm going to say the answer to that is probably yes, with the intention behind it. So hope that answers. I know the person who asked that question is actually here. So question here. So I'm going to come back to how many frequencies can you send to one person in one go? Now, with regards to the frequencies, if you just went absolutely nuts and crazy, it'll probably be, I like the word discombobulated. It's just going to be a jangled mess. So with regards to this, when I'm working with the clients, I'm choosing the frequencies which are related to the issue that we're working on. And this is, because the person who, I should have put his picture in, actually, I didn't add it. But the person who, John, I think it's John Waite, the person who came up with and created all this spooky tour equipment, owns the company. One of the things he talked about, he said, if a frequency, okay, let me use this example. There's some, and I know some of you here have pets, etc. A dog whistle, as a human being, somebody could be blowing a dog whistle right outside my window right now, and it's not going to impact me, it's not going to bother me, and it's not going to bother any of you. Whereas if somebody were blowing a ref's whistle, like if I said we're the circuit of the gym, like that, or if for those of you who go to Notting Hill Carnival, blow the whistle, that thing's loud. We'd hear that. The dog whistle is at a different frequency, so it doesn't impact us. We don't have the range to respond to it. Our body doesn't kind of take it on board. Our ears are not hearing at that frequency. It's very similar to this thing here. If you choose frequencies and they have no resonance with you, your body will be like, whatever. It's just like, won't do anything, which is why choosing the right frequencies is all part of the deal with the radionics. It all centers around the dowsing side of it. So in terms of the frequencies, you can send loads. I wouldn't, because that discombobulated thing, but I haven't yet seen people talk about the limit. But what they have talked about is, we'll send frequencies that make sense, otherwise you're kind of wasting your time. So that's that one. But with regards to this, I was built, because you can build up to, I think if I'm going to build it, because I'm running the frequencies through my PC, but with the Gen X, that little silver box, I can run it as a standalone. I can preload programs, and I believe it holds up to 30 frequencies in one program. So I can, if I want to, build a program for someone, if I'm doing it remotely, that has up to 30. And if I'm doing it on my PC, I believe the level is 99 as far as I'm aware. But again, a bit like the kettle analogy, it's not going to do anything particularly if those frequencies don't resonate with you. Let me know if that makes sense. Also, would certain crystals be better for certain things since they have their own vibration? Absolutely. So when I said there are some crystals where I think, oh, that would be obvious. Let's just say somebody is working on relationships. Rose quartz might be the obvious choice, for example. Or if somebody was working on money, wealth, abundance, which I know someone who's taking part is, malachite or citrine may be the obvious example. If someone was what tiger's eye, you know what I mean? So there will be some I go, oh, I think that's going to be good. And then others, I'll get my dowsing rod out and I'll do a bit of dowsing and say, right, this is what we're going to be imprinting. And now let me check and see which of these crystals I think will fit the bill and be a good fit for that. So yes, definitely there can be. Someone says, I love all your experiments. I love them too, but thank you. Ditto with the experiments, even those not yet created in the physical. My eyes lit up at the dials, imagining me in the other receiving plate. I'm not kidding. Right now, a picture of me is on the receiving plate. A picture of me. Seriously. And when I was playing around with it last week, I was working on a specific thing. So I set it up, I do the dowsing, I put what I wanted on the, I'm just going to say on the left, which is what I wanted. And then on the right, I put up, let me pull it up so I can show you. I pulled up the picture from, these are my money breakthrough cards. So I pulled up the picture of me from the money breakthrough cards and I put them on the plate. And then I went upstairs. About an hour later, I got an email about the exact thing that I'd written on. I was like, Holy mother of manifestation. Now, the logical part of the brain kind of go, it's a coincidence. I'm like, number one, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in synchronicity. I was just like, what on earth? And then today, I was working with a client. So I'm the therapist, they are the client. And at the end, they said, there's something I want to talk to you about. Let's talk tomorrow at 4:30. And the thing that they said is exactly the thing that I've been praying for this week. So we're going to talk tomorrow at 4:30 and it's going to come more concrete. But I've been running myself on this frequency plate. Well, I left myself on for 48 hours because I've been just, I've taken a few things off and putting a few things on. So you recalibrate. But yes, that's the idea. You will be on this thing when we do the experiment. So my eyes lit up at that as well. And that's why I got it. So is Radionics device sold by the spooky people? No. Radionics, let me just see if I've got a handy link. I think I probably have, because I do tend to, oh no, that's not what I'm searching for, but Huna. Yes, you can. Should be able to find it. Let me, let's try it that way. I will find the link. Oh, what did I save it under? I'll find the link for you. Oh, hold on. I'll put it in the chat when I find it. Pretty sure I saved it, or if not, I'll go and just check you out. But it's made by a company called Bacana Labs. It does, however, need the Gen X to run, because like the manifestation protocol, you have what you call a preset. We'll get a bit technical, but there's a preset protocol for the, so the preset protocol for the manifestation protocol, it holds the frequencies of what they've programmed in for manifestation. So hold on, let me see, because it's running. I can't show. Let's see. So I'm in the base preset, the healing preset for the remote. And we have reality engineering 1, reality engineering 2, reality engineering 3, reality engineering 4, reality engineering 5. At the moment, what it's running is the alpha rhythm relaxation to achieve a state of peace. And next, it's going to run essential oil blue tansy. So with some of the extra bits I put in, but there's a frequency program, the baseline program, and that is still run through the Gen X. So it's from a different company called Bacana Labs. However, it does rely on the Gen X running the frequency through it. If we hold on if we attended the first trial and you run it again, can we still apply to attend again and to work on? Yeah, absolutely. And now, when I first got into Spooky 2 and I saw people had like more than one generator and loads of remotes, I'm like, have these people lost their mind? What's wrong with them? Are they addicted? And then I started using them. I'm like, oh, I get it now. So I have ordered what you call another boost and another remote. Well, that means I can now double up. So whereas everyone I had to have week 1, only one person, week 2, one person, week 3, one person, week 3, we're doing the remote. With the extra boost, I could run 2 generators simultaneously. And trust me when I tell you, I've seen people, they've got like a whole like outhouse and it's full of generators, and they got one for their mom and one for their dad and one for their aunt and one for their uncle. And at first I thought these people are crazy, but now I'm starting to get it and go, oh, I see why you might want to run more than one generator. So I've got another boost and another remote coming, which means that I could double up in terms of what I'm doing for people. So do we have to buy lower end simple device sold by Spooky? It's actually I've given the link to a couple of people and they've been like, what in the name of, it's just mind blowing. Hold on, let me get that as well while I'm here. So it's mind blowing. I have to, you know me, I like research, etc. So I'm going to put my Spooky 2 affiliate link into the chat as well. That's the Mal Ref one. So there we go. So that's in there as well. So the site is, even I who love data, is overwhelming. So I spent about 4 days picking through the site, whizzing through it, reading all the descriptions, boom, boom, boom. Then I stepped away from it from a day, and then I started mapping out in my mind, what is it I actually want to do? and what do I think of the thousands of pieces of kit they offer? What do I think is going to best serve my purpose? And I went from there, because there is a hell of a lot of kit. So if you're thinking about getting something, I'm happy to kind of give you a little overview of what I discovered on that journey of just diving into it. But there's a lot of data there, which is great. But it helps to have clarity. What do you actually want to do? And they have got the Gen X is their kind of top end generator, but there's one that sits underneath that, the blue one, perfectly fine, works well. Loads of people have got that one. The amount of frequencies you use makes sense. Thank you. Holy Mother of Manifestation. I love it. Seriously, that was the thing that I was thinking of, like, you've got to be kidding me. It was just like, what? So that's that. Right. So we are through the questions. Thank you all. So let's come back to the manifestation protocol. First thing I'm going to say is, if you haven't had a drink of water, and this is note to self as well, if you haven't had a drink of water in the last 15 to 20 minutes, have a drink of water. Because it is a good idea to keep yourself hydrated. Right. So here we go. So the manifestation statement, it's a statement of intent. So that's what in photo, for those of you who are photoreaders, I know there's some of you here, that's what we know. If we talk about what's your purpose, step one, this is basically same as what's your purpose. The wording can be the difference between failure and success. Their words, in terms of the people who created the Radionics play, and I agree, as someone who's a coach and therapist, NLP trainer, absolutely. So they talk about avoid negative statements. Let's say somebody's working on relationships and they say, I don't want to break up with my partner. Actually, because they say, and this is something I learned in NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming 101 in October 2000, the mind doesn't necessarily process the negative. It just hears the baseline statement. So the baseline statement in that statement is break up. And it's like a beacon. So the way I would say it, if I were doing this as a coaching thing, is focus on what you want and say it the way you want it. So that's that. So avoiding those negative statements. Also bring it into the present tense. Let's say somebody wants to sell their car. They could say, my statement is, I want to sell my car. Okay, fair enough. We know what you mean. We kind of know what the underlying intent is of that. However, to sell your car, the presupposition, if we put it in NLP terms, is it's not yet sold. So the improved statement would be, I have now sold my car. So the presupposition is it is sold. Then add what we call an actionable statement, something that's got some so it's something more tangible. So you could say, I've sold my car. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, it's all right. But actually, with my coaching and therapy head on, I'd say we could next level that. So, before we did the Q&A, I said, what would your ideal outcome be? I would suggest having something like because let's just say there are people in the world called tire kickers, and there are also people who would take it a step further. So they might come and say, yeah, I want to buy the car. And they might even, say, I've transferred over the money. Here's the transaction thing. Or, yeah, I'll sort that out. Can I just take it for a test drive? And they might have a partner with them. So the person who's selling it feels a little bit awkward about going with them. Says, oh, yeah, okay. And then they never see him again. So my thing is like, okay, my improved statement around that would be, I have received payment, and then I have given the keys to the new owner. That would be my technical last step. You got the money, so it's sold, you've exchanged your documents, and you've handed the key to the new owner. That's how I would nuance it further. And then once we've got the statement, we store the intent. Now, when I say we store the intent, let's just say there's somebody who's taking part who said self-love, for example. So self-love would go on the input because that's what they want to receive. And then I will put the crystal and the holographic sticker onto the output plate. And we're going to store self-love into the crystal. and that will be the thing that holds a frequency. There have been lots of debates in the Spooky 2 group. How long does a frequency hold for? Some go forever, others go 6 months. So the jury's out on that one. I've got no idea. However, as those of you who are taking part in the experiment, you can let me know. And also for those of you who are energetically inclined, I know many of you who are here are, you'll probably be able to feel the resonance of that. So someone said, you know, if you think back to the feedback, they said they can feel the energy in the background, not quite sure what's happening, but they know that something is. So you'll probably have that same feeling of resonance with whatever it is we store the intention into. So that's that. So what we want to do, a few minutes, don't overthink it, go with the flow, knowing that you can come back and change it and improve it and refine it over the next few hours, days, even the next few weeks. Start writing your manifestation statements. So I'm going to say these just so you hear them, and this will of course be up on the screen. And if you're watching this as a replay, then you can hit pause and come back. So question number 1, you might want to have pen. Now this pen, I purchased this pen when I was in my mid-20s, and it's only just the rubber now has just started to go. So I've had to do a bit of an upgrade. The company have gone out of business, but thankfully somebody took over the company. So they make a similar pen. They're called Sensor, and they use the Fisher Space Pen refills. So I've got a favorite pen. I know many of you are now in the world where you like typing on a tablet. The reason I'm going to say if you can get pen and paper, because these are the little sheets of paper that I've used for each of your names. Now I needed a smaller piece, so I cut that in half. And then when I showed you the harmonics plate where I showed you the folded piece of paper, I cut this in half. Your name and what you wanted to work on went into that, imprinted into the name, that got folded up, and then that went into the harmonics, into the scalar energy field. There is just something quite magical, pen to paper, that brain right down the arm to the hand to the paper connection. So my suggestion, take it or leave it, is to actually physically write it, and it's up to you. So first of all, number 1, what's your intent? And I'll read it, and then I'll give you some time to sit and write your statement, and then we'll do the Huna to finish off. So number 1, what is your intent? Number 2, what is the success outcome you desire? So for example, car is sold, got the money, handed over the keys. Write it in the positive. So one of the things I do, and I've been doing for the last 23.5 years at this point, is teaching presentation skills, public speaking, and coaching people in that subject. And it's a classic one where I say to people, what do you want as a result of booking this session, this breakthrough session, attending this training course? And people say, oh, I don't want to be nervous and I don't want to be anxious. Brilliant. What do you want? Well, I don't want palpitations and I don't want sweaty palms. Great. Well, what do you want? Well, I don't want to be like a rabbit in the headlights. So I just let them go on. I go, brilliant. And I say, so let's just get this straight, shall we? Just so I'm clear on what we're working on. You want you want fear, you want anxiety, you want palpitations, you want to be like a rabbit in the headlight, you want blah, blah, blah. And I just list off all the things they said. They start laughing and go, no. I said, but I asked you, what do you want? And people's natural tendency, I know what they mean, but when you do it in that way, your mind and brain has to hear the statement and then flip it over and kind of figure out what it is. So I say, look, if you don't want to be nervous, if you don't want to be anxious, what do you want instead? Well, I want to be calm. Brilliant. Well, if you don't want to be like a rabbit in the headlights, what do you want instead? In flow. Brilliant. And if you don't want your mind to go blank, what do you want instead? Eloquent. Very similar, but neurologically, your mind and body are going to respond to both of those. It's going to respond to nerves and anxiety. It's going to respond to calm, eloquent, being in flow. So when I talk about stating it in the positive, for example, if we take that example, somebody will say, I am a confident public speaker, because we're not going into, well, I hope I don't get nervous and I hope I'm confident. No. Just leave that bit that you don't want out, and let's put our focus on what it is you do want. So that's number 3. Number 4, write it in the present tense as though it's happened. So don't say, oh, I hope I'm confident when I do my talk. Nah, that's in the past. I am confident. You could even jump the fence in a bit and go, I was really confident. I was brilliant when I did my talk. For me, I like the I am statement, but the I was also now presupposes that it's happened and it's a foregone conclusion. So you want to be on that side of the fence rather than writing the statement based on what you don't want and then having to neurological flip it. And if any of this doesn't make sense, feel free to, ask questions to clarify. Number 5, you want to add an actionable completion step. So I remember when I did my NLP training, the person that I trained with, David, he used an example of when we were doing timeline therapy and putting a goal out in the future timeline. And he said, think about the trip to Hawaii. What would your last step to know you've achieved them? Some people say booking the flight to Hawaii and, I'm packing my suitcase, I'm at the airport. And then he said, well, all of that could happen, but then you could, injure yourself and you don't make the flight. And you're like, oh yeah. Now for me, when he said Hawaii, I was like, oh my God, I'm hulaing on the beach. So that was my immediate thought. And then he said, what you want to do, he said, even you're on your way back from successfully completing it was 14 days back then. So you're back from successfully completing the 14-day Huna practitioner training and you're boarding the flight home. Because when you look at it from that way, it presupposes that everything else along that chain of events has happened. You have booked your ticket. You have, you're on the flight. So you've arrived at the airport, you're on the flight, you get off the flight in Hawaii, you don't fall into a pothole, you complete the training and you're on your way back home. The circuit is complete. So I like to go for what I call almost the complete circuit when I'm going for that actionable last step. And then for those of you who are taking part, when you're happy with it, send me your final output, because that is going to go on the radio. I'm pointing there because that's where the Radionics plate is. That's going to go on the Radionics plate. I know I've got a couple of people here who said, I've suggested it and they said they'd like to do it. I said, you can write it in your own hand and just post it to me. Because when you're writing it in your own hand, put the intention, put the energy, put the vibe, put the frequency into it as you write it. Put your heart and soul into it, because that will then carry the resonance. Now, it's not to say it won't carry the resonance when I write it. I just think a cool part of the experiment would be for some people to actually post it to me, and then your piece of paper in your handwriting goes onto the plate. Not necessary. I've got a perfectly good pen. We've already seen how the results of me writing everything. So far, I've written everything and done all the name imprinting myself. And just for the fun of it, if you want to, you can write your statement, you can send it to me. So I'm going to leave that up on screen. Oh my God, time flies, does it not? So I'm going to leave that on the screen and I'm going to say, let's take, where's my stopwatch? At least my iPad with my timer on it. Let us take 5 minutes to write your beginnings of your manifestation statement. So just do it like a free writing exercise. Don't overthink it. Go with what comes to mind, knowing and trusting that you can refine it, you can update it, you can, add to it, make it even better as we go along. And for those of you who are sending me your statements, whether it's via email or putting them in the post, if with your permission, if I read it and I'm like, same as I would do in a breakthrough coaching session. If a client says something, let's say we're going to do some timeline therapy or future life progression, whatever it is, they will say something and my brain is like, I'm not happy with that. Not because it's nothing to do with me, but the phrasing, the way they said, I'm like, no, there's more. There's another level we could ramp this to. So if I read it and I'm like, oh, I like it, and I will maybe just send you an email going, could you possibly just, what do you think about this? And I might give you a few more things to think about. So keep that in mind. It's not because I'm trying to be difficult. It's because I want you to get maximum result. So when I read the statement, if I think we could do even better than this, I will probably let you know that. Alrighty, so I'm going to start the timer. Your 5 minutes starts now, and I'll be in the back. Actually, I might write mine as well in the background and sip my now cold tea, herbal tea. Right, your 5 minutes starts now. Okay, there's been a question here. It says, does our manifestation have to do with our original issue, or can we go for our heart desires? Only asking because I know the original experiment is working in the background. Fabulous question. Go with heart's desire, because that's going to be more exciting. That's got more juice to it. Even when I read it, I'm like, that's got more juice than, well, you know, that thing I said before. So no, go with heart's desire would be my suggestion, because when you write it, you want to feel that wonderful energy, that heart's desire energy pouring into it. So personally, I would say go with heart's desire. So you've got another, let's say, 2.5 minutes left. Another 2.5 minutes left. So you've got 1 minute left. So it might be that you've written it already and you look at it, have a read through, do a wrap up, but 1 minute left to add to it, refine it, and of course, come back to it another time and update it. Okay, so hopefully you've got, so what do you do, what frequency do you say if someone doesn't know what is wrong with them, as in there's no diagnosis because the doctors just don't know what the underlying cause of the problem is? Now, it depends. Remotely, we would be doing the dowsing, etc. Oh, so I see my Q&A light is on, so I'll have a look at that in a minute. So remotely, we'll be probably doing dowsing, all that sort of stuff. There is something which is a diagnostic, and if you are with someone physically, it's almost like a biofeedback thing where you could do, they recommend a saliva sample. So there's a special plate, it's not the remote, there's a different plate that you use. So you put the saliva sample on, and then you ask the Gen X, the generator, you ask it to run a scan of that person's DNA. And what it does is it runs a scan and it tells you what it picks up in terms, and then from there you would choose the frequencies. I don't know, a lot of people, for example, because apparently it's very common, it will pick up that they've got parasites, for example. And again, we're not making any healing claims, we're not doing any diagnosis, we're just saying this is what the thing would pick up. So in person can be quite specific. Outside of that, a bit like, let's say if I was doing something on the Radionics plate, it doesn't matter. I would have to douse on that to get a sense of what frequencies are we working with. But if you're talking about the equipment itself, then there is a particular program and a bit of kit. It almost looks the same as this. It's just a slightly different shape. It's not as bulky. And then the plates go in here and it reads the DNA sample and it will scan the body and it will tell you. There's also a thing where apparently it takes a couple of hours where you can sit in the frequency scans you, and then it will give you some feedback back. So cool. Transcended all the dentistry interventions. I like that. I love that word, transcended. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I love that. And successfully, yes, absolutely. I like that description as well with the home. Wonderful. Perfect, Amundo. That is absolutely brilliant. And what I would say, particularly if you've typed it in there, do a cut and paste of what you have said, just so you have a record of it as well. Because if you typed it straight into the chat, but then the chat ends, we're like, what do I say again? So keep a copy for yourself as well, just to make sure you have it to hand. And then what we want to do is we're going to close with the Huna energy clearing. So again, if you haven't had any water in the last 10-15 minutes, have some water. See if I can do a 60-second overview of Huna for people whose names I don't recognize and they've not heard of it. Huna is something that comes from Hawaii. Many people have heard of Huna because they've heard of what I call the social media version of Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. Now, the Ho'oponopono that I learned out in Hawaii, it's the stage, it's the Avaiki, it's the Arca connection, it's the cutting the blades of white light, boom, 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 boom. It's a whole full-on production. However, the social media version is a very good start. So it's a mental, emotional empowerment, healing practice, means secret or concealed knowledge, empowering yourself by releasing energetic blocks, cutting old links and ties and connections, which is what the Ho'oponopono is known for. Works with energy, the elements, symbols, etc. And I do Huna remotely. There are symbols that we use, which we are going to be doing today. The symbols are drawn on the breath, they're delivered on the breath. So that's what it will sound like when we're doing the energy transmission. Works brilliantly with groups. This is at the TCCHE. So you've got Greg Braden, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, and me. And I did 2 minutes of Huna for that group. There's over 500 people in the room. They all had a profound and unique experience of it, really focused on what they wanted to work on. So I always say the energy has its own intelligence. It's not me going, right, with that person do this, with that person do that. It arrives at its destination, has a chat with your energy field and goes, right, what we doing here then? So it's brilliant for groups, and it has that wonderful ripple effect as well, because after this event, it's called the TCCHE, the Conference for Consciousness and Human Evolution. I had people emailing me several weeks after the event to tell me the things that continue to happen, the catalyst of which was that Huna session in the room. It travels. So this was someone years ago, one of my clients, who was listening to an MP3, so an audio recording there in Australia. I'm here in the UK. It was early hours of the morning, so it's one of the occasions where her name's Pippa Neve. She didn't attend live. I sent her the recording, and she sent me this really detailed explanation. And it wasn't until years later I realized that what Pippa was describing was the order and sequence and the symbols I'd used, but she had no idea, because I didn't say what I was doing. I was just like, even someone who's a Huna practitioner has no idea what I just did, because we use our breath at different rates. And she described perfectly the third eye, the heart chakra, the feeling compressed, because that was the first symbol. The thunder comes down and strikes the earth and makes the earth shake. She said she felt it sensed a triangle of fire. That was the second thing I did. I brought in the fire energy to burn away what we'd just shaken up. She said she felt things being drawn out of the body. She had no idea that I'd done the sword fingers, for example. She said she felt lighter. She's kind of, her center's opening up. That's why I do a symbol in the center to open up the chest, and then the light is shining from the inside out. So as I read her description years later, I hadn't clocked it at the time, but then I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I did. She's in Australia, I'm in the UK. It was an audio recording, and I've had people listen to recordings 7 years after I recorded them, and they're like, I felt like I was in the room. And again, you know, depending on what you want to work on, this client, Lack Loy, he's called the white collar warrior because he works in the banking industry, and he also teaches martial arts. He's one in the lineage of Bruce Lee. He was out of work, out of contract for 9 months. We did some Huna over the phone. We happened to also meet up at something called the London Yes Group that week, and we did a couple of minutes, 5 minutes in the back, but we basically did it on the phone. And within a couple of days, he had a contract that was dead in the water. Somebody got in touch, said, can you start tomorrow? He actually had to say no, because he'd been out of contract for 9 months. He was taking the kids to school, picking them up. So he said, I can't start tomorrow. Got to make the arrangements for the kids, but can I start on Monday? And it's weird that he was out of contract for 9 months. I've had exactly the same with another client. We do a Huna, like a one-to-one Huna session, and she sent me a message, I think it was 2 days later, saying, Marilyn, I've got a problem. I said, what's happened? She said, I've just been offered 2 jobs. I don't know which one to choose. And she'd been out of work for 9 months as well. I don't know what it is about the 9. And so he said, you're not going to believe this. You have an amazing ability, and it's having miraculous effects. So I just say, you're not trying to direct it. This is one of the symbols that when Pippa was saying she felt the pushback. It says thunder comes down from the heavens and strikes the earth and makes the earth shake. So I tend to use this one if clients are stuck, and I'm like, oh, come on, let's get this moving. We'll use that one to shake things up. This is the one where you can open up. So if somebody's blocked, for example, think of it in terms of crown chakra, this one to open mouth to reveal secrets. If a client is in I don't know mode, we can use this one to really open things up, and suddenly it's like they get a download and it just blows their mind. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Wow. So I play along and be surprised, but I'm not. And then this one, dissolving energies. And so again, if clients are like, oh my gosh, and they're overthinking things, use this one in the third eye, and this one to make the light pour forth and come to the front of the head. And that's where suddenly all of the ideas are pouring forth. So what I'm going to do with this one is we're going to do a round of Huna in terms of that statement, just to help you get greater clarity. Maybe it's about having more of that divine connection. Maybe it's actually grounding. You might be away with the fairies, and it will be really good to have some of that earth energy. So I'm not dictating what the energy jar does. I'm just going to be the conduit for that. It arrives at the destination, which is you. And then you and your energy field, higher self, if you work in that way, will determine, a bit like the scalar energy. If the energy isn't for you, or you don't want it, you're like, I don't think so, Marilyn, thanks very much, but no thanks. The energy will just pass you by. It's you giving yourself permission to receive the energy. So, if you have any questions, if you have any queries about what we are about to do, post them in the chat, post them in the Q&A. I know there is a 30-second delay. So while we're on the delay, what I'm going to do, because I looked up Bacana Labs, so I'm just going to pull up that link that I just went and found. Radionics, Bacana Labs, for the person who was asking. Let me put that in the chat. There we go. So that's Bacana Labs. It's designed for the Spooky too, but they are a different company. And also, for those of you who might want to be on the waiting list, I don't know if it's like Zoom, that if you come in later, you can't see the previous links. So let me put the wait list in as well, so you can fill that out, and then I'll go there when I'm looking for when I'm setting up. Right, ookie kook. So let us do a round of Huna. So take a deep breath in and exhale. And if you choose to, you can gently close your eyes and just notice the in-breath, notice the out-breath, and just relax your breathing. And also imagine there is a wave of relaxation that starts at the top of your head and is cascading all the way down to the bottom of your feet like a healing, cleansing waterfall. And it's almost like a sonic shower that can cleanse, release, resolve, let go of things from the inside out. So anything and everything that no longer serves you. Well, you've got what you need to know, you've got what you need to learn, you've got what you need to pay attention to, and it is just time to let it go now. Just imagine releasing, resolving that. It almost like when the same way the water runs down the shower, this is running down into the center of the earth to be recycled and released and freeing up your energy field. And then put your mind for a moment on your intention statement, your manifestation statement. What is it you would love to be or to do or to have or achieve, and bring that statement to mind and just hold it at the forefront of your mind. And we'll now just do a round of Huna to both energize that statement and also to help release any blockages that may stand in the way. And all you have to do is give yourself permission to receive if you choose to. And we're asking that the energy you receive is received in a way that is right and healthy, ecological for you and for your greatest and highest good. And then just take a moment to see yourself, imagine yourself achieving your manifestation statement. You've done it. It's that last step. It's that action step. Completed, done. You've ticked it off. And just take a moment to look out into your future and notice that happening now. And then leaving the energy, the intention, the completion of that in your future timeline. And just imagine coming back towards now and noticing all of the things that need to happen out into your future timeline to support you in achieving that. You've set the ball rolling. It's now in motion, and you're already starting to energetically create that wonderful domino effect. And then you can bring your awareness, your attention back into this now moment, into the place and the space that you're in. So you might become aware of what you're sitting on, what you're lying on, any sounds that are around you, how you're feeling, the temperature, anything you have on your skin. Might be you're wearing a wrap or something like that. And then at a rate and a pace that is comfortable for you, take a deep breath in and exhale. And if you've had your eyes closed, you can now gently open your eyes. And if you're sitting, you might want to gently stamp your feet on the floor. If you're lying down, or even if you're sitting, you can pat up and down the arms, pat the chest, just to bring yourself energetically back into the here and now and the present time and space. And you might also want to have, cheers, a drink of water. Well, that was a bit epic. So, with regards to next steps, particularly for those of you who've taken part, keep in touch. If you're tech savvy, you can scan that QR code. I put a page together where you'll find all the links. There's the remote energy waiting list. There's a results blog. There's information about the frequency generator, the equipment that I've been using, also linked to my Huna audio and the Huna on-demand workshop, if that takes your fancy. I actually may add these links. What I've also added into the chat is a link for the one-day group event, the kind of ultimate transformation in person, and then there's the spa retreat link as well. And there are three options for that: either town centre, right in the centre of Watford, a hotel that's a little bit further out. It hasn't got quite as much acreage as the Grove. And then there's a Grove option as well, if you want the ultimate in luxury. But there are 3 different price points, because I appreciate not everyone's going to be up for the Grove thing. And but as I said, it's a beautiful place. But the options are there on the ultimate transformation 3-day spa. So that's that. So come back, let me know how you get on, the results that you get. So for those of you who are taking part, feel free, comment in the chat, etc. If there's anything you want to share, any updates, drop me an email as things unfold with the things that you share. If I can add them to the blog, let me know if that's okay with you, and I'll anonymize them and change the wording if there's something you think will identify you. And I will add future updates to the blog. So that's the bit.ly/remote-quantum-results. Debbie says, what a wonderful way to spend a couple of hours. Where did the time go? Tell me about it. At the start of a new week. Thank you so much, Marilyn. Greatly appreciated as always. Debbie, you are most welcome. An absolute pleasure to have you here. Really hope that all of you found it useful as well. So thank you. Massive thank you, first of all, to those of you who came forward, took part in the remote experiment. I appreciate you. Thank you for being so open and so willing just to show up and play and keep me updated with all of the fabulous results. And also thank you to everyone who is here live. And also thank you to those who are watching this as the replay recording. If you've got any questions, got any queries, I'll say these and I'll spell them because they've got unusual spelling. So you can ping me an email, Marilyn@transformationstm.com. That's Marilyn at trance, TRANCE, not at trance, F for Freddie, so FORMATIONS, TM as in trademark. So Marilyn@transformationstm.com. Main website is transformationstm.com. My blog, MarilynDevonish.com, and Devonish is DEV for Victor, ONISH. Doesn't get as much love at the moment because I found something that's much easier to use than WordPress. Don't bother phoning me because the likelihood is I will not answer. But on social media, it's /Marilyn Devonish, apart from Instagram, where it's the NeuroSuccess Coach. Someone said, Winnie says, what an amazing webinar, hugely informative. I had my crystals in my hand. I'm buzzing. You are a blessing to the world. Well, Winnie, so are you. For those of you who know Winnie, she makes the most incredible bath salts. It's like they are alive. And I don't know if you've ever seen Winnie in action. Some of you who came to the MBS, you would have seen it with your own eyes. She has this incredible ability. I've never seen it before. Like, this is a pot of gold. This is Alaskan gold. This is from the lovely Sonny Olmo. I have carte blanche to use her name. It's gold. Winnie makes gold in the palm of her hand. We stood and we watched her do it. And some of you who are here on this webinar were there and we watched her. And really, Winnie, if you got the link to your baths, oh my God, Winnie, I think your salts would be an amazing accompaniment to this. Oh my God, if you've still got your link, can you please put your link for the your salts into that? Oh, hold on. So Winnie says, let me just see if I can find it. Oh, let's see if I've got it to hand. Oh, I think I have. If this is still correct, if it's not, I'm sure Winnie can correct us. Here we go. So someone says, yes, extra vibes into the bath salt. So the link is there. It's Wynn's World Therapies, WYNS World Therapies. That's all one word. So wynsworldtherapies.com/energy-vibrational-bathing-salts. And she also does a shower version as well. So if you're not someone who takes a bath, she's created the vibrational salts. Maybe refresh, hopefully, Winnie, you'll get the sound back. But really, check them out. And if that's not still the website address, I haven't actually, let me just put it into, I'm going to put this into the URL just so I can correct myself on the video if it's changed since I was last looking. But I just want to be sure, because man, they're out of this world. I've been using Epsom salts for the last 30 odd years. Oh yeah, the page is there. I've been using Epsom salts for 30 years. When I use Winnie's, I was like, this is like nothing I've experienced before. Brilliant, thank you. The link still works. What's the Facebook page for the crystals? Brilliantly, I will find that. Oh, actually, I can find it in my presentation. Let me find it in my presentation and just cut and paste it from there. Mad Dog Designs. She's got beautiful crystals. They're amazing. Oh, there's what I'm looking for. So, Mad Dog Designs. Let's see if I can cut and paste from that. And put that there. Right, there we go. So it's facebook.com/MADDOGG designs. And Mad Dog Designs is all one word. Winnie says she's doing some lip reading. So Winnie, I've just put the link in for your vibrational salts because they are out of this world. And I think they would be the perfect accompaniment because they're vibrational salts. You actually put the energy into them as well. So I think they would be amazing for everyone taking part here. Right, well, that is that. I just want to say again, thank you, all of you for being here, for taking part. For those of you who took part, if you want to do another round, I will leave the price. It won't be the same price for people doing it publicly. But it will be for those. But for those, if you want to do another round of it, it will be the same price. I'll leave it at £59 for those who have already taken part in the experiment. But it will be a different price point for those who are coming in later. But if you check the link where you can join the waiting list, I've added a payment page to that as well. So if you're like, I'm in, I want to do it, I want to just book my spot, then that you can book. because I haven't sent it out to the public yet. I'm just talking about the results at the moment. But thank you all. Thank you for staying right to the end as well. I can see the number has remained consistent. I'm very impressed with all of your staying power. So thank you also for that. And somebody, I can just see the number has changed again. I think somebody's just come in as well. So we are just bringing it to a close. But for the people who have come in later, there will be a replay recording. It will take a few hours. I always say give it 12 to 24 hours. Sometimes it's done in as little as 2 or 3 hours. So it will render. And then on the same link you've used to get into this webinar, you've all got a unique link. It'll be exactly the same link for you to watch the replay. And if you know someone who could benefit from any of these things, whether it's taking part in the remote experiment or joining us for the in-person health activation day where we do the health circuit, or joining me for the spa retreat, please feel free to share the details with people. That would be really appreciated, because me and the algorithms are not having a brilliant time at the moment. It doesn't really like what I post. I said sorry for another day. Some of you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, feel free to share if you know anyone who could benefit. That would be amazing. If you see it online and you feel so inclined, give it a thumbs up, or maybe even say a few words. You don't have to say, oh, I did this, but just like, oh, that sounds great, or I did something similar. I worked with Marilyn before. That would be amazing, because that really does bump it up the algorithms, and that's been a challenge at the moment. So thank you all. Wishing you a fabulous rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. And yeah, let's play. So I look forward to the manifestation experiment, the radionics, the imprinting, all good. So yeah, I shall leave it there. Catch you later. Oh, you're most welcome. Really glad you can make it. And let's stop the recording.